Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Let's talk about Emanuel Navarrete versus Robson Conceicao. Now this fight, before we go any further, this fight is on the 16th of November, which is next Thursday, okay? The 16th of November. It's for the WBO super featherweight title. It's on in the US, T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. And it could well be a fun fight. But don't forget, it's not on at the weekend. It's on Thursday, the 16th of November. Right, so let's deal with these fighters one at a time. Now, you're probably aware of both, but you'll know that they're both entertaining fighters to watch. They've got good styles, and I think these styles could match up very, very well indeed to produce a very entertaining fight. We'll talk about Emanuel Navarrete, first of all. 28 years old. From Mexico, 38 wins with 31 KOs, so he's got heavy hands. One defeat, and the defeat came very early on in his career, back in 2012, that long ago. A unanimous 4-round decision against an undefeated fighter called Daniel Argueta. Don't know what happened to Mr. Argueta. I did look him up on BoxRec. I think he had a bit of a career, but petered out really. But yeah. Navarrete, of course, it was a learning fight. He's been pro for, like a lot of these Mexicans, they turn pro very, very young. And he's now 28 and he's in his prime. And he has proven to be a wildly exciting fighter. I mean, wildly exciting. He's actually a 3-weight world champ because he won I think all these are WBO titles. He won a super bantam championship, WBO championship initially. That was his first one. And that was against Isaac Dogboe. And you may remember they had 2 fights. First one was in 2018. Dogboe lost a unanimous decision. He then lost the rematch by 12th round TKO. Very, very exciting fights. Then I think he made a couple of defenses. Moved up to featherweight, WBO again, featherweight title, and won against Ruben Villa, won a unanimous decision over 12 rounds. He then defended that a few times, and again, the WBO, he moved up and won the super featherweight title against Liam Williamson, and that was only earlier this year. It was only in February of this year. He stopped Liam Wilson. Did I say Williamson? It's actually Wilson in 9 rounds. But interestingly, he was on the floor in the 4th round. Wilson was down in round 9. Wilson actually performed very well in that fight. He was sort of unheralded, came in with an 11-1 record, and fought very, very well. And we were thinking at the time, maybe Navarrete's moved up too quickly. Maybe he's not really a super featherweight. Maybe he should have stayed for a little while longer at feather. But then he came back and very impressively outpointed Oscar Valdez. And this was only in August. This was sort of mid-August. He outpointed Oscar Valdez over 12 widely. I mean, 118, 110, 119, 109 or something like that. And then one of them was a bit closer, 116, 110, I think, or 116, 112. And it was thoroughly deserved. And Valdez, of course, was only once beaten. He came in with a 31 wins, 1 defeat. The defeat being to Shakur Stevenson. And many fancied Valdez to beat Navarrete that night. And like I say, that was only in August. So that's the guy's getting work, Navarrete. And he looked very, very impressive. He really did look like a genuine super feather in that. Although it could be argued, of course, Valdez has never been quite the same since that knockdown, drag-him-out war with Miguel Berchelt. That was back in 2021. He actually beat Conceicao, who is Navarrete's opponent in this particular fight, outpointed him, but then he lost to Shakur Stevenson, came back and had a 10-round runaround with Adam Lopez, who I think he'd beaten previously, and then lost over 12 to Navarrete. And to be honest with you, Oscar Valdez does look like his best days are behind him. He's 32 now and he's got a lot of miles on the clock, but it's still a good win. Still a good win for Emanuel Navarrete. Now, Robson Conceicao, 35 years old, from Brazil. Quite tall, 5'10", 5'11", something like that. 17 wins with 8 KOs and 2 defeats. Now, at one point, if you go back to sort of 2020, a lot of people were saying this guy's a real killer. He's going to dominate the division. It didn't pan out that way because he ran into, as we said a moment ago, Oscar Valdez. Valdez outpointed him over 12 unanimously, but there are people who think Conceicao won that fight. And the cards, if I remember rightly, one of the cards was very wide, and I think that's why people sort of screamed controversy. But the other two were relatively close. I'm trying to remember offhand. I think we were talking maybe a 115, 113, or 116, 112. But one of them had it wide, and that, yeah, the wide card was way off. But he then came back and defeated Javier Martinez, undefeated fighter, who was 17-0, beat him over 10 rounds and beat him convincingly. And then went in with Shakur Stevenson. Now, Shakur Stevenson definitely did beat Conceicao. That was last year in September. Unanimous decision, very, very wide, and quite rightly so. Conceicao was put on the floor at the end of, I want to say, the 4th or the 5th round. It was a body punch, delayed reaction. And Shakur Stevenson is such a brilliant fighter that there's no real shame in losing to him. And, you know, I mean, to be honest with you, Robson Conceicao, he does have lots of flash and dash, as does Shakur Stevenson. But Stevenson has a lot more substance, a lot more weight behind his punches, probably a higher ring IQ. With Conceicao, he's very fast. He likes to fire salvos. He's an aggressive, come-forward fighter. And to be honest with you, whereas that worked to some degree against Valdez, it played right into Stevenson's hands, and Stevenson sort of had his wicked way with him, to be honest with you. Now, you could be forgiven for thinking that Conceicao is going to play right into Navarrete's hands. But Navarrete, although he likes people to come forward, and he welcomes a firefight, he likes to counterpunch. He's an extremely unorthodox fighter. He's an orthodox stance, but an unorthodox fighter in that he technically does so much wrong, and yet he gets the work done. He gets his job done. And I think that's illustrated by the 31 KOs in 38 wins. Now he's in his prime. Now he's settled into the super feather division. I don't know whether Conceicao is going to be able to manhandle him up close. No doubt Conceicao will come forward, fire lots of, like I say, punches in bunches, the old salvos. But I fully expect Navarrete to punch with him, to welcome him into the zone, and to fire. Navarrete is the type of guy, he likes having the last word. You fire 4 punches, he'll fire 5. You fire 6, he'll fire 7. It's that type of craziness with Navarrete. He's a type of guy who's probably defensively he's a little bit better than it looks, because he does have that, and don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing him to Roberto Duran, but he does have that ability to sort of pull away, slip and slide the punches, and really take the sting out of punches that land. That's not to say he can't be hit cleanly. He can be, definitely can be. He's been on the floor. I'm sure he's been on the floor. Of course, he was on the floor against Liam Wilson. Yeah. Has he been on there before? Been on the floor before? I can't remember offhand. But definitely a hard hitter. And when I say a hard hit, I think a lot of the knockdowns he scores are because of his unconventional style, because the opponents just don't know where the punches are coming from, and very often they'll get caught off balance. Now, I expect this to happen to Conceicao. I expect Conceicao to be coming forward, and once Navarrete, who does take a round or two to get his motor running, it wouldn't surprise me if he's from about the 3rd or 4th onwards, he starts to really clip Conceicao. And Conceicao, if you can take the sting out of him and push him back onto the back foot, he's pretty vulnerable, at least in terms of his punch output will go down. Whereas Navarrete, once he gets you on the back foot, his punch output goes up. So I fully expect Conceicao to take over in the middle rounds, I would say. First few rounds, I mean, after 4 he might be behind. Middle rounds, I would imagine Conceicao will start to, or rather Navarrete will start to get the range more, start to fire more punches. Conceicao being pushed back somewhat. being a little bit less cavalier, perhaps, you know, a bit more hesitant. And then I think in the middle rounds, Navarrete takes over, and certainly down the stretch, the last 3 or 4 rounds, I see Navarrete turning the screws. I think Navarrete will win the fight. Do I think he'll win by stoppage? It's possible. I'm going to go with points. I'm going to go with a points win for Emanuel Navarrete over Robson Conceicao, round about 116, 112. 170, 111 maybe. But and it is possible to stop him because he does have that swarming style. And he, although when people talk about fighters getting stronger as the fight goes on, of course no one gets literally stronger because that's impossible using up energy. But the way he settles into a fight and finds his rhythm, and sometimes it's kind of staccato. He can staccato a lot of it. I think Navarrete. I think he's apart from the fact he's wildly entertaining to watch. I think over the 12 rounds, he's very much a 12-round fighter, Navarrete, and I see him taking over in the last third of the fight. And yeah, I'll go with points. I'm tempted to go for a late stoppage, but I'm just going to stick with points. And so I think that will be a successful defence for Emanuel Navarrete. This is the second defence of the title, the WBO super feather title. Would he go up to lightweight? I think that would be a bridge too far for him, to be honest with you. I think he should stick at super feather. He's 28. He might grow into it. I doubt it though. So having started off at super bantam, I think this is probably his threshold, super featherweight. But again, don't forget, Thursday the 16th, not this weekend, Thursday the 16th. Comments below, who do you think's got this? Do you think Conceicao can spring an upset? And it would be an upset. Or do you think Navarrete is just too busy, too swarming? I mean, that's basically what I think. Do you think it's going to be a good fight? I do. I think the stars are going to mesh very, very nicely. But I see Navarrete being the winner. So you pick your winner and tell me why. Leave your comments below. And of course, as always, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Comments below, like the video as well, and spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. I'll answer your comments as well. Thanks as always for your time. Much appreciated. And I'll catch you later.